Welcome to another episode of Disruption Talks, where we invite top experts to discuss digital acceleration, winning strategies, innovation, and scaling products. Today, together with me is Stefania Colombo, product manager at Uber. Today, we will be discussing a topic of product roles at high growth companies, and possibly learn a few things from Uber. Welcome, Stefania. How are you?
Hi, Matheus. Thank you for having me.
Uh, so let's start with a slightly personal question. Product managers, product management. This is this very interesting role that people come into product management from different backgrounds, from tech, from marketing, etc. What is your story? How did you get into product management?
Yeah, I'm happy to share. Have had kind of a different journey. I think an entry in the product management space. Um, I would start from an early beginning. So the role began with my foundational experience in the tech industry immediately after graduation in economics in Italy. I was 22. And my first step on this path was in Berlin, actually, in a marketing role in two different company. Actually, you might have heard of Get Your Guide, and also a marketing agency. In these two companies, I delve into a world of SEO, SEM. I have to say that this was quite an essential beginning because kind of allowed me to deepen my expertise in a digital marketing, understanding all the nuances of user acquisition, online marketing strategy, of course. And it kind of gave me this foundation into the mechanics that drives online visibility and engagement that would be very useful later on in my product management kind of path and a journey. So after this, I transitioned into role of business development and data analysis in a Rocket Internet. Rocket Internet is one of the most successful German incubator in Munich and Berlin. And so this kind of was a significant shift that kind of exposed me to a startup ecosystem that really like pushed me to give importance to agility, data driven decision making, and kind of ability to quickly actually adapt to the market needs. Um, so recognizing at that point, what happened is that I recognized the need to bridge my understanding of the business and the technology by kind of embarking on a more, let's say, transformative journey. So I wanted to acquire this technical skill and get and relate more with the developers. And so I started this full stack web development bootcamp in Amsterdam, actually. And so I invested. It was an investment, an additional investment in my education, and so getting this deeper technical understanding kind of pushed me to get a more technical role that was implementation manager. The first role I started at Adyen in Amsterdam, and then later from Adyen onwards, I joined two other companies that would be Onfido and now at Uber as a product management role. So at Adyen, I actually had an internal transition from an implementation manager to a product manager role. So in short, what I would say that I think that multidisciplinary approach to my career kind of gave me this solid base of understanding on the technical but also business space. And I think those are the two ingredients that kind of made me succeed in my role. So having foundation, I'd say base knowledge on marketing, on sales, on business development, on data analysis, kind of make the perfect recipe for me to land into a product management role.
So you mentioned this development bootcamp. I guess that a lot of times I'm also getting this question from people who are considering starting a career in product management, at least in tech companies, in digital product management, let's say, as how important is it to have this either technical background or this deep technical understanding. So the question from me would be here. Do you think like for those people who are considering either a career shift or at least a career in product management, this move that you did, this investment in your technical understanding, do you think it's critical? Do you think it's important, or like it's enough?
Um, yeah, I think it really helps. It helps. It will help you in the future to speed up conversation with developer, to have to grasp very quickly technical specs, to understand like API. When I run these bootcamps, we also had the opportunity to build our own software. Basically, it was a product that we sold to a company here in Amsterdam. So really put yourself into the shoes of a developer. What does it actually means to build stuff and sell it, and also have a fair estimate on time of development. So I would say it will really help you. Will facilitate your life. You don't necessarily have to, but if you have that knowledge in your pocket, it will serve you uh, in the future at some point, and make your life easier.
So joking, of course, but if need be, like you can jump in and do a code review if the ticket is too long and waiting for the code review in your team. You're capable. Uh,
No, I would hate to do that. That's why at some
I mean, yeah,
at
of
the end of
course.
my bootcamps, I was refused to be a developer myself because I realized that was not my cup of tea. Code review and all of that, but definitely engage with developers is a lot of fun.
That's actually very interesting because like I recall a conversation with a very senior developer from quite some time ago, when he had a chance to, let's say, test the waters as a product manager, a technical product manager, and what he told me is that as you said, you would not like to be a developer yourself. That for him, this experience of being a product manager for a couple of months, like this time to see the results of your work in comparison to being like a developer and a product manager is totally different. And for him, it was really hard to understand, okay, I'm doing one thing now, and like I need to wait a couple of months to see the results of my work. And that's the hardest part for developers to step in. At least this is like an interesting anecdote that both worlds have, have very different, maybe not mindset, by very different types of
Yeah,
return of investment, let's say. But
absolutely.
moving on, you mentioned that like you worked for such a renowned companies like, for example, Rocket Internet. Most of them high growth software companies or very technical companies. Um, what do you think is a like a what are the key challenges in such companies? What are the traits of or characteristic of those companies that first of all allow them to grow in such a speed, and how is it to work in such companies?
Um, I will kind of split the answer into in the sense that
Sure.
really highly depends on what is the position of the company at the moment in terms of their growth. Indeed, if we talk about Get Your Guide, which was the company I joined early at the beginning when they were probably Series A, B, um, to the biggest company where I'm now working at Uber, which of course is a public company. So I think what makes actually what they have in common, all of those hyper
Mhm.
growth environment, regardless to the size, it's first of all flexibilities. Those hyper growth company, of course, they are focusing some of them more into reaching profitability. Some of them are just fighting to get like a market share. But anyway, they operate in a state of a constant change. So agility is here not just like a buzzword, but is really the fundamental operational principle of those companies. And so rapidly evolve in strategy, products. Sometimes they would pivot the entire business model just to adapt to the kind of competitive pressure. Another things they actually have in common is experimentation. I would say I've seen this at Get Your Guide, I've seen this at Onfido, at Adyen, at Uber as well, is this continuous experimentation, meaning keep on testing new ideas, keep having this a failure approach. So failure is actually an opportunity to learn and growth, but it's also about creating an environment where the culture itself needs to be founded into rewarding who has tried to get a little bit out of their comfort zone even and start testing things. And another thing is, of course, is kind of resilience, right? Try to get out, fail and error kind of methodologies, be resilient to change. Roadmap might change very quickly within a year, and for some employees, I keep seeing these. Some people are not very well fit for a company that changed so rapidly within even a year or like a quarter, right? So those are all characteristics that you have seen regardless to kind of the growth stage of these companies. But obviously there are specifics that are different, that for between, let's say, Uber and Get Your Guide, it was at that time very small, right? um, if you want, I can give you more on
So
this.
yeah, let me follow up on this, because I think this is a very interesting topic, especially for our audience. That when you're mentioning those brands, those companies, like a lot of I guess our people with our on our audience would like to maybe not copy, but at least reach this culture, reach this stage where the organization is capable of doing those things. So like you mentioned a lot about culture, mindset, behaviors. How do you foster those, like from your perspective as a product manager in those organizations? What are the things that those organizations are doing differently, so that the people in those organizations are empowered to experiment? They are not afraid of failure. Is it just recruitment, or is it something that they have in their DNA and they are doing differently? How to build or foster such a culture?
I think that the key ingredient, of course, there are multiple mechanics that a company can play around, and there are a lot of literature around that actually. But in my personal experience, your manager is the key to success and to really achieve and go out of your comfort zone and do indeed this trial and error kind of methodologies in your careers. If you are if your manager is encouraging you, is trying to kind of pushing your boundaries, but also is very much trusting in you, and there is no culture of punishment. In some companies you might have seen that if you have not achieved X or Y or Z within a X timeline, well, you might have, let's call it severe consequences. It might have been different things per companies, but could also be not getting your bonus at the end of the year. You might get your raise, or which I understand the importance of bringing performance and result. Of course, that's your responsibility within a company, but there should be enough room to try and error and also fail. And this is a very it's very hard to find this trade-off and find this
In line,
this
yeah.
the perfect line where you're not giving too much, giving in too much on responsibility as a company, and achieving, of course, business targets, but having this mental, I would say, safety of being able to try and get out and getting. I think key is having DS, so the data science team, your best friend, I would say, because they are the one that they can really push data analysis and really see what is the result of your experimentation, and how to push forward.
So one more follow up, because I think this is a very interesting topic, and I guess the rest in in product management, and not only in product development, aligns around the culture, around the those characteristics that you mentioned. So as a product manager, for example, from your previous experiences, could you give our audience an example of, for example, how do you work with your team of development team, so that they can experiment? I guess
Mhm.
as a product manager, first of all, you get your goals like in OKRs or whatever, like whatever form of goal setting the given organization is using. So you get those specific goals. Usually, there are in those data driven companies, they are very specific. There is a number to achieve, etc., etc. Um, and then of course usually in those hyper growth companies there is much more things to be done, to be developed, to be created, to be experimented with than actual resources. Yeah, like there's this constant tension of speed, time, etc. So how do
Yeah.
you as a product manager, how do you create this, first of all, safety, but secondly the space for the team to experiment and to grow and to look for maybe other ways on how to reach the goals
Yeah.
in such a pressured environment that is moving very, very, very fast?
Yeah. So I think to answer this question, I need to maybe make some be specific on the context where we are, because for instance, if we are in a company which is already public and is a size of, I would say, 2000 plus employees, where we have, which is not even that big, but it's already enough of a big size to have dependencies cross team. So
Complexity, yeah.
the more dependencies you have on other teams, of course, the more complex it is to navigate the synchronization. And so the more precise you need to be on what you want to deliver next year or within this year or this quarter and so on. So if you agree on delivering something for another team, then automatically creates more rigidity on where you can actually go and expand. While in a smaller company, every team is responsible for their own little, let's say, garden
Kingdom, yeah.
products. And so they are the owner of their own destiny in a way. And so they, in this case, they indeed will have a bit more room for maneuver and really to say, okay, that's what we're going to deliver, that is in line with the business goals in terms of profitability, getting new customers and so on. But we're going to keep a buffer of time for initiative. And most of them might actually, we call it engineering led initiative, because engineering doesn't mean that they don't have. That's something I also stress at Uber. um, Engineering led initiative are equally important as product led initiative, because especially on a platform environment where engineers have a deep knowledge of technology, the stack, the architecture. So if they have a sense of changing something on the architecture, they should go out and try to experiment, even though not necessarily yet it is aligned with a business objective like profitabilities. Because changing a small part in the API architecture, let's say, might have a very big magnitude later on in the future for scalability, and maintainability of the system and so on. So I would say smaller company will be easier to experiment as soon as you retain some time to of your engineers, of course, to dedicate some time on figuring out what could be possible that not necessarily is yet already in the roadmap. Hackathon, of course, helps a lot of companies. They're investing on those events where engineering teams like team up and they come up with crazy idea how to improve the products. And this is a nice occasion to think outside of the box But I think it's important that we kind of build this culture of experimentation, even in this bigger company. Yeah.
So you mentioned engineering. I like it because when I work with my teams, I usually try to get with the message that tech and engineering culture is actually the same, like just another side of the same coin when it comes to product culture. And like basically engineering does not equal coding, and quite often the teams in
Yeah.
this day-to-day operations, they just forget that like engineering is about solving the problems and finding the right
Yeah.
solutions, which pretty much is basically the same as product managers working with products, finding a valuable solution to a problem on the market. And I will use this as a segue to the first question from our audience. So it's 2024, and the question is about future of product management. Is
Mhm.
there a visible switch to more engineering manager slash engineering lead role instead of product management? Is engineering now more in the lead?
That's a good question. I think not necessarily. So AI, of course, I mean, is taking more and more ground in our job and is helping us, is facilitating, is speeding up operational boring tasks that we need to deal with, and um, is a good hand to have in our job. But this doesn't mean it will substitute product. And this is something I really want to. I've listened to a couple of podcasts where they were kind of already make a sentence. Sorry, not a sentence. Like kind of like a
Statement.
create. Sorry.
Like a statement.
Like yeah, like very convictive that yes, the product management will end as soon as AI is going to take over, something like this. Or like that's not true, because product manager have a very empathic approach to resolving customer needs, which an AI or like a machine yet doesn't have. It will definitely help us support in operational tasks that we deal every day, but not necessarily substitute our position, our role. And to respond to your question on engineering lead, I think it's those two positions have a different scope. Engineering lead, of course, they have and they should have an eye into what is the problem that we have solved. So looking at the problem space, looking at the solution we are delivering, of course. But engineering lead are actually also managing, at least that's how I've seen in many majority of the company I work for, they are managing engineers. And sometimes an engineering lead is managing a team of 10 engineers or 7 engineers, and they are people managers. Product managers are not people managers. They are managing the product. And so they are also have communication, entrepreneurial skills that sometimes you might not have when you are you delve deeper into the technical details of developing a product and so on. So zooming in and zooming out constantly, it's very difficult job to do. Talking with engineers about the specific technical nuance or bugs they're stuck, and then getting out and talk with a CEO or like CPO about this is the product that we are delivering because the user needs that to solve their problem. It's a lot to take. It's like a spring that might break at some point. So I think keep like these two roles separate is a good thing. And yes.
So the good message to all the product managers that are listening to it is that AI will not steal your jobs, at least not now.
I don't think so.
And and moving on then to or coming back to the topic of those hyperscaling organizations. I think there is definitely there is a change after COVID and after the, let's say, economical crisis, at least in Europe and US, VC funding, interest rates, etc., etc. Do you see also with like changes in how those high growth companies operating during those last few years or few months? Is there a shift? Is there something different now than like 5 or 6 years ago?
Yeah, well, obviously, I would say the way we collaborate across teams and in an organization, it's much more given for an employees to have a month off where you work from anywhere. Or I've been working for Onfido, which was based in London, and I was working from Amsterdam, and so was basically full remote work. So the meetings and everything was like just purely online. And then it was surprising to see how actually good it worked, because it was of course at some point I felt, oh, I really want to have a one-to-one meeting with someone face to face, because you will still miss that. But the dynamics, even if a company is running a organization like with all the employees working remotely, this is totally feasible nowadays. And of course everybody has is a personal opinion about this. Some people will have to go to the office regardless, but I like the hybrid, which is actually what I'm at the moment at Uber, right? We have a hybrid organization. And yeah, so I think that's the obvious that the pandemic brought to us. But I would say that after that, everybody got invested into AI. That's, or of course, something we seen, but also the investment and the kind of funding landscape. I think I saw also an evolution. So the investor are showing, of course, growing interest in companies that kind of leverage artificial intelligence. So I would say for anybody that is, doesn't matter the kind of the industry, but AI can also not necessarily be a product that, of course, you sell, like it was at Onfido, where we sold, AI solution for identity fraud detection in identity verification space. But it could also be just using AI to smooth your operational tasks, automate as much as you can in your even like a chat box. That's what we're doing at Uber, right? So why we would have keep like a huge team resolving some issue that are repetitive, and they're always we can automate the process. And so AI is something that we have adopted at Uber to resolve that. So be creative on the use of AI within your organization, even if you're not necessarily your product is an AI product. You know what I mean?
Sure. So, I need to ask this question. Like, of course, please feel free to not answer. But what are the activities of a product manager that like you working as a product manager that you automated using AI? There's a lot of things that can be automated. Are you like automating your daily task as a product manager?
You could use uh, from the very small things to the biggest. Like, let's say you have tons of meeting and you want to find a space to dedicate to have a focus time, right? There is a product or there is an automation of your calendar where it kind of find a blocks where to have this perfect time for you to focus on the things you want to do. And this is all AI generated, right? You will analyze your calendar and kind of move the right fit, fitting perfectly your calendar to your obligation. And then roadmap is not yet something that you can automate, but you could. So, for instance, ChatGPT at Uber is something that we are testing at an enterprise level. So really see how we write a lot of document. We write document because it's the perfect way to communicate cross teams, and having like written down black and white, everybody knows what you're working on. So generating these documents can be a lengthy process. So having in the case of the engineers, we have the ERD, an engineer review document, and for the product manager, we have the product requirement document, the PRD. And so those two documents can be created and yeah, in much faster pace, obviously. But we could also get it out there and try automatic note taker. So having like a microphone that would record the meetings and write down your notes for you, that will be shared across the teams. Yeah, I think those are the main ones. I'm looking forward to see what else we will use in the future. But also, I forgot one of the important things, of course, analyzing data, right? When you have like a huge data set that you have to analyze, and you might not be yet very pros SQL. So using a support, what I call it, the agent, because in actually agent, that support assistant that is helping you analyzing those data and give you like prompt results. This is the one of the benefit of using AI, of course, data analysis.
So I think we reached a second good message to all the product folks there. And not only will not AI not steal your job, but also will make your job easier and more fun, and then you can focus on
I
what's
would I would
actually
like to
valuable.
get back to that question in regards to the why AI is not stealing our job, because
Sure,
we yeah,
let's
I
do.
think it's important to emphasize. So um the so AI can actually predict your behavior, automate most of your tasks. But there is one thing that as a product manager, yet the AI will not substitute, and this is empathy. So we are a customer centric kind of role, right? We try to resolve some users' problems that could be in business to business or business to consumers. But anyway, we try to resolve our client's problem. Can we always, the question is, will AI all the time predict and assess what is the problem of our users and have the empathy to really like resonate on a personal level? Um, will it be able AI to do that? I think at this stage not yet. And so that's why empathy on meaning like trying to understand our customer experience and provide some experience. Like at Uber, you could imagine like taking a ride or ordering your grocery. What are those touch points where the solution that we are selling and that we are offering feels like intuitive, it feels like kind of compassionate, it feels like human, or even like the chatbot itself. I said, yeah, we use AI to speed up or like to automate. Of course, that's important, but can we, shall we stop at the point that we fear this is just becoming too mechanics and too unhuman? And so this is where the product manager should be alerted of using innovation, but also keep an eyes on, are we inclusive enough? Are we making our product accessible? Is respecting somebody else's privacy, of course? Um, are we using ethical consideration? All of those things that I'm not sure AI is yet capable of looking at all this real 360 degrees. And so I think product managers should be there to keep an eye that those things are conserved. Yeah, till the point we might be redundant, but yet not.
Not yet. So I guess the conclusion from it is that the skill of, or the area that we should focus in 2024 as product people is empathy, because like even when you said that like you did this boot camp, I really like those answers, because like you said, I did it because I wanted to understand better my product team, my developers, my engineers. And this is also about empathy. Like you did not say like, hey, I wanted to code myself those things, but you said I want to understand, I want to empathize with my team, my users, my stakeholders. So I guess the conclusion is the skill of the 2024 is empathy, and we should invest more and more into this, because this might be our competitive advantage when it comes to automation and AI. Before we will dive deeper into this inclusion empathy, I wanted also to stop for a moment. It's maybe slightly connected with empathy. We saw also this, let's say, tech winter in the recent months. When we discussed, when we talked before before our meeting today, this "Are we family?" Are the companies treating their employees as family, and are those employees feeling family members in those companies? What's your take on this? Like, I think we had this sudden realization that it's slightly different than many of tech employees thought it is. A lot of companies, especially in tech, were building this narrative that, hey, like, we are all one big family. And then when the crisis hit and the business metrics changed, business focus changed, also the approach to that part, I think, slightly changed. What's your take on that?
Yeah, this kind of make me reflect on what we are reading on Netflix culture. I mean, this has been already out for years, but I saw recently a post on Netflix where indeed it clearly has a clear stance that Netflix is not a family. They don't consider themselves rather a team. So they kind of emphasize that their commitment to excellence, high performance, rather than kind of lifelong employees. So in older companies, that let's say the more conservative one, of course, they would reward loyalty. People, employees, like dedicate their life to the companies. But is that really what we want from our employees? If you would run a company, because you want I would rather have, if I would have my own company, have employees that are flexible. They have been trying out other experiences, that are staying within my companies and dedicate their time and energy because they really feel like they belong, but not because I'm going to reward the loyalty and the amount of years they have been within the organization, but because they felt like they were able to provide a give and take is also an important element. So emphasizing a culture as of we are family, it feels a little bit too enforced to me. So there should be, I would rather encourage a culture of respect. We have clear boundaries. We create kind of a healthy work environment, where we feel valued, we treat fairly, but that doesn't immediately translate to being a family, because it's important to have boundaries, of course, especially in case, as you said, there's going to be a layoff, then we are not family anymore, right? And then what happened to the family spirit? So this is maybe it used to be like kind of culture of family culture, things like this, like buzzwords back in, I say, 6 years ago in the startup world, but now it's kind of fading away, because indeed people are acknowledging that they need to kind of protect, it's give and take relationship, and there is no one, nor the company nor the employees is above each other. It's I
So
give.
do you think it's a
Yeah, so
fair statement to say that we are maturing as an industry, as a tech industry? That this is like a just a next step in how the industry professionalizes itself?
Sorry, what do you mean? Can you repeat?
Is it? Do you think it's just a natural step that like there was this surge of people coming into tech, a lot of very fresh companies with maybe not as long experience in managing, building businesses, managing teams, leading people, etc., etc. Like in other industries that have hundreds of years of experience and some processes, professional ethos, let's say, and now we as a tech, we are basically maturing, like we are up past the growing pains, and it's just the next step in our maturity as an industry as a whole. Would
Um,
you agree, or is it just like we will be in cycles?
mm, yeah, I think. How can I say? I would say that it is important to like we have mature as a difficult to answer in this one because of course there is an evolution from what were the conservative companies and now they were established their culture that was definitely much stiffer. There was like a dress code even, and to the companies or tech companies where we went completely on the opposite side of, hey, let's wear hoodie sneakers, so we are all
Rebel.
big family, we are friends, we sleep together, we have party together. um, there is actually a nice movie on Uber, actually, how it started. It's called Super Pump, and there is they actually show how the company started and where there was this thing of I'm gonna be with Uber all my life, and because this is my family, and I don't see myself anywhere else. But this is also preventing your personal growth. Of course, if you attach yourself and you identify yourself within the company, so you are individual, you're not the company, right? So like identify too much on the company, I think is going to be damaging yourself, because it will potentially prevent you to catch some different opportunity that are outside, maybe in smaller company, but it will still boost your growth, your career. So now there is a better understanding that this family concept of family is kind of, as I said, fading away, but there's still we have still more flexibility, understanding of mental health and agility on where we want to work remotely and so on. So I think now I can complain. Really, we are in a good stage where there is, at least in this hyper growth company, a good understanding of where personal boundaries are. Diversity inclusion is very important. Remote working is an opportunity, and yeah, and I mean reward of performance is given, is there is meritocratic methods that really look at how you have performed and therefore are being rewarded for it in a yeah in a meritocratic way. And I think that's very nice to see in these hyper growth companies, keeping this stance on these things.
So you mentioned diversity and inclusion. So please allow me to ask this very provocative question. So do you think it's still a thing in this very business KPIs driven environment? And like is it still a thing?
Yeah, yeah, it is sensitive, but I mean, it's very fair question, right? So the I think understanding of diversity kind of expanded beyond kind of gender, ethnicity, and now it kind of include like a range of dimension that is a bit wider, such as like nationality, but like educational background, disability, and also what we call it like the neurodiversity. I think that's an important one. So being inclusive, not necessarily. I mean, of course, we see a growth on the female ratio in tech space, at Uber, but also at Adyen, many other tech company I saw reaching like already like 40%. My team is 50-50, by the way, the team I'm currently working and Uber, and it's all very beautiful to see this equality in the tech space. But really what I want to emphasize is that there are other diversity that we should keep an eyes on. Like neurodiversity is something that maybe we is yet not, it doesn't come to mind when we talk to diversity, but like it's all about dyslexia or employees that might have ADHD or other type of complexities that they need to deal. They're perfectly, of course, working, and they are all they're all perfectly capable of bringing deeper value within the company. But they might have a different approach into problem solving and the strength of a company is to bring all these nuances of bringing value and methodologies and all in this big pot and let them make the magic. Because like if you don't have the let's say the good proportion of diversity in all of these sense I just explained, in all of these methods, then you will all think alike. And what happens if you all think alike, you think about the same, you don't generate new ideas. And so diversity in age as well, and also educational background, I said before, because we all have come from different university, but might not even have studied university, right? Does it mean that I don't have an entry on a hyper growth company if I don't have my bachelor? That's not true. You might bring other different kind of skills, right, to the table. And keep an eyes on this from a recruiter, human resources, and take an action. I think it would be very valuable for any company.
Thank you for that. So we have two ingredients now already covered. So empathy, now diversity, and this diversified team with different perspectives that make those products really great. I wanted to ask one last question because like you're working as a platform product manager at Uber. Um, uh, could you briefly tell us what are the specifics and how, for example, AI is impacting the platform teams? How does it differs in comparison to those product client-facing product teams?
So the internal product manager is different from a client or user facing product manager. So internal product manager, like such I've been in at Uber, but I also been at on Fido. So I've been managing platform. And so what we launch, they're not feature, but we call it capabilities. Capabilities, why? Because we work for the company. So our customer are internal teams. We serve internal teams rather than external users. Obviously, everything we do is for the to release feature at the end of the chain that will enable and solve the problem for our user, of course. But our direct clients are our internal teams. So at the platform, we could think of Adonfido. Adonfido, of course, we use machine learning to predict and to detect fraudster in the identity verification space. So what a platform actually does is kind of like a layer, right? So we have different teams that work in processors. Each processor were processing data to then detect whether there was a potential fraudster. You could have a processor that detect, the image, whether there was something that was, oh, that's funny. So there you would have like a processor on the image identification, another was text extraction, another was geolocation, another data point that the processor will look at, extract, and then get the results and the machine learn would do this. But all of those were individual teams, right, working with data learning. And we were platforms, so we would take all the results coming from all different teams and orchestrate them to get the ultimate outcome, and give the answer whether this would be a potential fraudster, and therefore block them. So it's platform, if you could imagine, like kind of like this foundation where every team is kind of sitting on top. And then we build, we take whatever result they're giving us, and we orchestrate, but we also enable scale the company to scales, because otherwise every individual team would have to report, and then you would not have like a layer that takes care of all of their outcomes. So the same is kind of happening at Uber, having a team where is serving all different kind of line of businesses, right? So Uber is operating with rides, with grocery, with eats, with flights. And so how do you make sure that the experience of whatever booking the service or paying the service is actually consistent, is seamless? It's creating this kind of layer, this horizontal layer where all the line of business is relying on, and this is called platform. So we operate for other teams, so it's slightly easier in terms of feedback, collecting feedback, because they are our colleagues. We don't need to go outside, and so that's a little bit easier in that sense. But it is very technical role. It's pretty much like back-end work, infrastructure, architecture, reliability, improving scalability, reliability. It's our OKR is a little bit different than other external product manager.
Awesome. I think with that, we can wrap up. We have all the ingredients of the successful hyper growth company. So the culture, the empathy of the teams, then we have diversity and the right team actually to do so to solve the task. And now you mentioned the foundation that is actually the engineering, the tech platform, those capabilities, enablement of those teams internally. So one last question here as a slight follow-up to that. Do you think that AI will somehow impact how we build platforms in the next quarters, years to come? Or is it just one of the tech puzzles that will just be seamlessly integrated into the whole equation? Or is the disruption coming?
I think it will definitely help us. It would help us if you give the right input. That's all about. You have a huge amount of data. You have the information you need to have. You actually, the more you're going to use AI within the company, the more you should invest into internal tooling to digest such a huge quantity of data. That's the point. Like even at Uber, we have internal toolings, internal system and services that deal with huge amount of data to provide and to exploit AI and to provide kind of automation and prediction on our products. But so we would not utilize an external service to manage such a huge quantity of data. So this is kind of like what I've seen in hypergrowth companies, build in house rather than buy it outside. But yes, AI will it will become more and more important for the sake of automation. But as I said before, is what is important is the instruction, what you want, how you want to use this data, this information, for what outcomes, and the instruction you give to the machine.
Awesome. And with that, I think we have the last missing part, which is data and AI and insights. Thank you very much for having this conversation today. Thank you
Thank
very
you.
much for sharing with me and our audience your insights and your ideas and your experiences. Thank you for being today.
Thank you so
And
much. Cheers.
see you soon. Take care.
Bye. Bye,
Thank you.
everyone.